Welcome to this little demonstration about Interact's work safety method statement reporting, all to do with occupational health and safety, of course. And it's been with Interact for some time, these aspects, but we've just done some recent enhancements which I'm going to show you. So here is a typical main menu. I'm just going to select the jobs menu number 11 there, and I'm going to go into the setup area for setting up a job safety activities. So I'm just going to select menu number 17. And we've got one example here of what we call a work activity. So what you can do is set up a work safety method statement in regard to all the different job work activities that you perform. Now in this example we've got one called hydro mulching, which is associated with putting lawn seed down. So we'll call this one up just as an example. So you simply set up an activity code here, a short code 20 characters long, and a brief description. You can have version numbers and when it was last updated. Once you've done that, it's a very simple setup. It will allow you to then go away and set up your personal qualifications and experience. And in fact, let's just quickly look at all these different menus. These menus are entirely at your own design. You can have as many records as you like. This first one here, personal qualifications and experience, is used ultimately on the report that the system is going to create for the work safety method statement. So here you can list out your personal qualifications and experience. Again, just a brief record just in terms of an identification code to identify, in this case, the qualification or work experience, and then just a line of description. So it's quite a simple little table, as most of these are. So let's move down the next one. Duties and responsibilities of the personnel involved in the job. I'll just show you this here. So again, have as many different duties and responsibilities listed out, and they of course will list out on the report as well. What training is required for the personnel? In this case you can see there's a list of different things that they have to be trained in before they can go on to do this particular work activity. What are the legislative requirements? Again, no limits to the number of things you can list out here. Just again a very simple identification code, which you can be using the alphabetical here, and a description. Next down, what tools and equipment, plant tools and equipment, are going to be used for this particular work activity? Just one truck in this example. And what personal protective equipment or clothing is required to be used for this work activity? Again, these tables are very simple. When you're setting up each activity, they're saved in tables. So that you don't have to keep typing all this information. You can just it'll just look it up, and you can bring it in and copy it across automatically. So once you do one, the next one you do, the next work activity, in this case we're doing hydro mulching, you can reuse a lot of this description without having to retype it all. Emergency shutdown procedures. And lastly, the main one, or almost lastly, what are the steps that we're going to do, procedures if you like, that we're going to follow, and what are the hazards and hazard controls for each one? So in this case here, I've got a work step if you like. We're going to arrive on site, nominate the work area in this case, load the truck, and there might be quite a number of different steps involved in completing this particular activity. So you have any number of steps. So let's just call up one of these steps, the step on arrival, and you can see actually two screens here displayed. Firstly, just a heading, what is the procedure we're going to perform in this case? Arrive on site, sign on to the pre-start brief, and then what possible hazards and hazard controls and warning messages. These are more just headings, and then you can break up these hazards into as many different hazard IDs if you like, or identifications, and basically it's made up of a heading, a ranking in terms of high, medium and low risk ranking, and then you can have up to 3 additional lines of description. In this case we haven't needed to have those 3 additional lines of description associated with each of these hazards. So these are the hazards involved with this particular step, and if I just pop out of that particular table for a moment and have a look at the controls, the hazard controls that are going to be performed to obviate these other hazards. So here we've got again a list of different things that we're going to be able to do to control the hazard. Who's responsible for doing that? It looks up a little table there of people that are going to be involved in controlling that particular hazard. And again, we've got several lines of description if we need it. Just widen that here. So I'll call up one of those. You can just see the sort of layout. Very, very simple layout. A control ID, again, it's stored in a table just for simplicity of going back to the repeating the same work activity. A heading, in this case up to 4 lines of description if you need them. Right, so this is the main meat of the work activity statement. What are the hazards and how we're going to overcome these hazards? Lastly, as far as the report's concerned, what work actions are required before, during and after work? That's just some lines of text, as you can see. Okay, and who's responsible? This is just a little table of, could be people, or it could be just, in this case, just a driver, a foreman, a general manager, an operator. And these are just values that can be tagged to who's responsible for controlling a certain hazard. You can set up your own table, obviously, to suit. Alright, so this is just the setup area, and once you set it up, I'll go back to the main menu. I'll just click on this little house here to go back to the main menu. And now what I'm going to do is go up to menu number 3, which is the Jobs Projects Database. But OH&S could relate to manufacturing jobs as well, of course, or indeed even servicing of plant and equipment for your own internal servicing jobs. But let's just have a look at how it's attached to a particular job. I'm not going to bother searching on jobs, just press start. I've only got a small number of jobs. Let's just call up this first job on the list anyway. And this is the job header that we're looking at here. Just sort of heads up and all sorts of information, of course, at the next menu in terms of doing estimates and quotations and budgets and so on. But our focus of attention for this video demonstration is just this little button over here, Safety OH&S. So I'm going to click on that. And this is the header screen that you've got in regard to setting up an OH&S report. And once you set this up, you can attach any number of activities to a particular job, and you've got an issue date in terms of the report, who prepared it, what's the current status of this report, is it just been prepared or is it approved, and if it's approved, who approved it, brings in that person's name and title. We can have a document attached. In this case I've just attached to this particular work activity a photograph, but it could be a document in terms of a Word document or a PDF or whatever. And then of course all this information that we previously entered for this activity underneath the setup area is copied across automatically and attached to the job. And all we really need to do is just go straight to menu number 11 here, print the Safe Work Method Statement report, and it will pull all that information that's now attached to the job across. It's just preparing the report. Now this is page 1 of the report, which has got, as you can see, a heading, those dates of who's prepared it, who's approved it, the job heading, what actions before, during and after. This is where we're seeing now the personal qualifications and experience, the duties and responsibilities, what training is required. Just a little note here about drug and alcohol and supervision. And if we go to the next page, this is now showing us a list of legislative requirements, plant tools and equipment that's going to be used for this activity, emergency procedures for shutdown, and personal protective equipment and clothing. So that's page 2. Let's go to the next page again. And this is the main part. This could be several pages long, and this is listing out all those potential work hazards. There's just headings here. What are those hazards? How we rank them in terms of their risk? And what are our various hazard controls, and who's responsible for ensuring that those hazard controls are met? So as I say, you might have quite a few pages of this. And then the last page of the report is just basically where people can sign the employees that are working on this particular job and doing this particular work activity statement can sign that they've actually read the statement and understand it. So that really, I'll just exit out of that report now. That really completes our little demonstration on the OH&S or Work Safety Method Statement reporting.